Hello YouTube. Today I thought I'd talk about three-way fridges and give you a few tips on how to improve the way they work, particularly as it heats up. So I think majority of the vans these days have three-way fridges. So three-way refers to the way it can be powered. So there's 12 volt, 240 volt and gas. So basically each of these methods are used to heat up gas, and through absorption basically it cools your fridge. Now it gets it's more complicated than that, and I won't go into it. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that will explain how the three-way fridges work, but the bottom line is they struggle as the temperature gets hotter. So basically your three-way fridge has two vents. They usually have one down the bottom and then one up the top, and the idea is that the cooler air goes into this bottom vent, and through the fact that hot air rises, then the hot air is pushed out of this vent and it continues. Now the tricky bit is when the temperature of the air that's going in is closer to the temperature of the element, and there's not as much circulation, and basically it doesn't cool down the exchanger enough, and your fridge doesn't work as well as it does when it's cooler. So there's a couple of ways of helping with this. The first, which we don't have, which I want to do, is to actually protect it from the sun, because as soon as this cavity heats up, then the temperature difference isn't as great and the flow of air is smaller. So people have rails that they put above the top vent, and they put a shade sail down and peg it to the floor, and that prevents the sun from directly hitting the van and heating up. So I believe that's a good method. What we've done is we've used a 12 volt computer van and put the computer fan in the top vent. So I will show you what I've done. This really works well. We've had 40 degree plus days with no issues with the fridge. So I'll show you exactly what I've done. It's a bit hard to show it with only one hand, but basically all that we've got is a computer fan here. This is your standard one out of a desktop computer, which I'm sure everyone's got lying around somewhere. And I've just cable tied it to the vent, and then connected up these two wires to a 12 volt source, fused obviously, and I have a switch on this as well, which I only switch on when we need it, because when it's cool you probably don't need it. You only need it when it kind of gets over mid-30s. This really makes a difference. So you can see it's pretty dusty, but this basically has also has three power settings. So I leave it on the lowest, and it uses kind of, I think, 250 milliamps or something. It uses really small amount of power as well, and all it does is push the air out of this top vent, and continues it circulating over that exchanger there. So that's the bit that you want the air flowing over, and it just provides a continual flow of air, and makes the fridge much more efficient. So yeah, I highly recommend you doing this mod if you're having any kind of issues with your fridge, and even if you're not, it's probably a good idea to make it more efficient. This is a good way of doing it. So the other thing that people struggle with is their three-way fridges on 12 volts, and I believe the most common cause of this is the size of the cable that goes through to the fridge. So you know, usually you have, people will be using one of these pins on the 7 or 12 pin plug, and you just can't fit the cable big enough in it. So this is what we run, another Anderson plug, and then this cable runs all the way to our battery charger to charge our battery, and then all the way underneath the van and into the back of the fridge, and directly to the fridge. So I think this is 8 AWG or something. It's decent sized cable. I'll put a link to, it depends where your fridge is in your van as to how big a cable you need to go. I'll put an image up now of how you should be working it out. But basically, the longer your cable, the thicker it needs to be to avoid the voltage drop. And then if you have voltage drop at your fridge, obviously it's going to not be as efficient. So this was one of the best things we did for, you know, the travelling days. Even when it's hot now, we don't have issues with our fridge warming up. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, then please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.